Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Black Eyes Esports podcast. I'm your host today, Adam Kilbo, aka Nerdy Hydra, and I have two guests joining me today. I have Yosef, aka Youfasa, the winner of the FIFA tournament. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you, Adam?
I'm doing fine as well. Also joining me here is Faisal, aka Fosumia. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just chilling.
Wonderful. Yeah. All right. Well, first thing I want to talk about here is going back to the FIFA tournament. We had this a couple of weeks ago, and we had two winners here. One of us is with us here today, which is Youfasa, Yosef here, and the other one was Hamant Sethi. Yeah. So congratulations. How was that tournament for you?
Well, first of all, thank you. Yeah, it was a good setup. I think for me, I enjoyed it. It was different. I haven't played FIFA in weeks in terms of a competitive side of things, due to obviously the certain circumstances that we have going on. But it was a good change of fresh air and getting to compete again. Always a nice feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Is it? Do you usually compete in these online tournaments?
Not necessarily online. I mean, the only really competitive online tournaments that I've been competing in are the weekend league. So that's part of the Ultimate Team side of things. But we did it through online seasons, which is a little bit different.
Yeah. And so, Faisal, you're the one that organized this tournament, right? Why don't you tell me about the tournament? And I think it was a charity tournament as well. Tell me about who we're donating to as well.
Yeah, so it was planned to do a charity tournament, and we worked with Secondhand Harvest. They're a food drive company, nonprofit in Minneapolis, and they provide food to children that are hungry without their own reason. So it was a pretty good cause, and I think it was really interesting for us to be part of something that's greater than esports and taking care of people that are around us. And I think it was awesome, and I enjoyed organizing it. I had a few challenges communicating. We also had help from the Microsoft Store of Mall of America. They helped us out. They matched our donations. So that was really awesome. Wilhelm Urbina is the other organizer for the Xbox side.
Mhm.
So he helped us run those brackets. We had 12 people sign up for the PlayStation 4 and then about 8 for the Xbox bracket. And yeah, everybody had a really great time and they were looking forward to the next one. And I'm sort of secretly planning the next one as we speak.
Oh, perfect. Oh, we can look for a second one here coming up, maybe in the next few weeks or next few months, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know how much we ended up raising in total?
Yeah.
For the,
So we, from the MEG Black Ice side, we raised $705. But that was after Microsoft matched our donations, which was around $650 at that time. So the Microsoft Store, Mall of America, they donated $650 as well. So totaled out to be very close to $1,400 for us that we fully donated to Secondhand Harvest. And I think it's a really awesome cause, and it kind of showed that the gaming community can come together in tough times and be giving and be part of the community.
Yeah, 100%. And that sounds like such a great cause. How did you find them? Are they a local charity?
Yeah, they're one of the local food drives, but they're not a local company. They're a nonprofit that kind of does food drives all over the country. But they're one of the popular ones, and they do a great job. And some of our partners suggested that we work with them. And with Facebook, it was so much easier. I can just create a charity fundraiser, and people can donate. It goes directly to them instead of me having to go and pay them personally. So it was a great way to kind of set that up through Facebook.
Definitely. Yosef, so you're competing in this charity because you frequently compete in FIFA. And in fact, you actually compete for Black Ice in general. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I've been working with MEG Black Ice for the last 2 years. Started off as a volunteer and joined tournaments through that way. That's how I met Faisal and kind of the rest of the team here. And yeah, since then I've been regularly competing at events. This is the first year I've actually started winning tournaments, though, which is a good feeling. Obviously, you want to be winning at FIFA because, especially here in Minnesota, the community is so big. So any time you get a one-up over someone, they always want to come back to the next tournament and try and beat you. So being able to consistently be well and to perform is always a good thing.
So it sounds like even though it's a big community, it's kind of a small community. You kind of have those rivalries around here.
Yeah, definitely. I remember back in FIFA 19, we had a regular Alonso used to always show up to the tournaments, always used to beat me, and so I learned from him. I always watched back the tournaments, and because we used to stream them as well at the time, and I went back and learned so I can become a better player, and yeah, it's brought me to be here.
Hmm? Yeah, it's a shame we couldn't stream this tournament because of the online nature. If we had in person, we'd love to have that, and then you could watch back more of those games and figure out how to do better. Yeah, it looks like you had a pretty dominant, actually, a pretty dominant lead in the group stage. You won all 3 games that you were playing in the group stage, and you had huge leads in the elimination stage as well.
Yeah, so for me when I'm playing my FIFA, as long as, like I said, as long as the game goes my way, most of the time, I'm usually pretty good and I can play my FIFA comfortably. But yeah, sometimes you're gonna run into tough opponents, and they were all tough opponents. I'm not going to deny that. I think they were all quality. Like I said, I just think things fell my way a lot. You know, after like I said, I record my game, so I was watching back, and a lot of the bounces went my way. A lot of the 50-50s went my way as well. But yeah, overall it was a tough tournament, I'll say.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it looks like the last game that you had, the grand finals game, was the one game that was really close in score. It was 5-4 when I looked back at the bracket. Well, that's wonderful. Yeah, here at Black Ice, I believe we're planning on more tournaments. Faisal mentioned that he'd love to have more of these tournaments and is planning one as well. And we're planning on actually, I believe, getting more of these quite often, almost every single weekend when we open up properly. Do you want to say anything else about that?
Yeah, so I'm currently working on getting a tournament organizer in place. So right now it's me, and then Riaz is one of the founders as well. He's helping out with the Gran Turismo tournament, so he'll be doing those regularly for racing events online. And for FIFA, I'll continue to do what I can, and then we'll also have some fighting games going on, and we're gonna try to sneak some FPS in there as well as some League.
Yeah, those are all really great types of genres to get some tournaments on. I always love going on Twitch and seeing whatever tournament might be going on, whether it's ESL or LCS or StarCraft. I absolutely love StarCraft myself. But it's kind of nice here that we have our own space so that when we finally get the ability to open it back up to the public, I think we can have a lot of stuff happening around here. We have an interesting setup. I think that's actually really cool for getting these types of tournaments set up. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
The in-person tournaments.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have around 40 PCs here, and then a couple of stream rigs that can be broadcasting games, multiple games at the same time. So our internet speed is really fast here too. So we can leverage those for online tournaments as well as LAN tournaments that can be hosted here, and we can definitely broadcast them to the world. So there'll be esports events for sure. And as we gain more following, more people will watch our league and our tournaments online and be able to come here in person and check out the really cool space that we have.
Yeah, we actually did have a little bit of a few test rounds here before we were forced to close our physical space. It was really neat seeing how we could get projectors up, projecting the game, and TVs watching our game, so you can see it around the area. And we have a whole production booth. We're actually recording this right in the production booth right now for this podcast, and with good spacing between us. So yeah, there's like a really good setup here for watching different games and getting these tournaments going, and really great environment. What do you plan on doing for the future to make it even better from what we have right now?
I think the next part is to get people comfortable going back out to the world and feeling safe, and that's something that we're going to work on. That's probably the first step, and as we start to get more comfortable, more people will come out, and this COVID is going to go away eventually. So kind of building towards that future that we plan on, which kind of went a bit further away because of this, but it gives us more time to kind of do little small projects here and there to make life easier for us when we actually run events.
And right now, I'm looking out the space, and we have some computers and we have PS4s. I'm not seeing any PS5s or Xbox Series X. Are you actually planning on acquiring a few of those when they come out?
Yeah, so we plan on doing a launch party when it comes out. So we're getting in touch with some of the retailers to get them in ahead of time so that people that are members of our group in Black Ice can experience that with us while we're here. And we can probably live stream those and try to capture the content from that time. And I think it'll be exciting to see what people think of the new consoles and whatever games are out there. I'm sure they'll have downloads that we have to wait on, even though we'll buy a disc. We'll still have to download something, but it will still give us something to look forward to and have like a launch party of our own through Black Ice.
Day one patches are always a big pain for
Yeah.
tournaments. Or the player up tournament, right? I think you had a few problems there with some patches.
Yeah, so the setup was insane. I mean, depending on the game, it had their own space, but for FIFA, they only had given them 2 stations, I believe, and then you have at least, I think we had to turn up about 8 people, but last time there had at least 30 people, so it was kind of insane to see that one level had all these setups and then the second event has only 2 setups, expecting a low number, which isn't great, especially when gamers are typically impatient when it comes to gaming, especially because they want to play and enjoy the game that they're playing. And yeah, we had myself and then another player have to download the game through their setup, which was tedious, but it worked out in the end.
Yeah, you got through it, which is fantastic. Speaking of all these Xbox Series X and PS5, we're going to have some discussion on that, our own little Black Ice hubbub on what we think about the new consoles and what they look like. I've done a bit of research here. There's definitely some upgrades compared to the previous generation that I'm really liking. For example, both the Xbox Series X and the PS5 are going to have solid-state drives instead of the normal spinning disk hard drives that they used to have, which is a huge upgrade in my opinion. As soon as I put a solid-state drive in my computer, I am obsessed with making sure that there's enough solid-state disk space for everything, because it's just so much better than having the spinning disk. So that's my favorite. I don't know if you have any favorites that you saw about these.
For me, it's always about every year. It's always backwards compatibility, because I always played games when I was younger, and when I transferred over. So, bit of backstory. I started off on the PS2, and then moved over to Xbox 360, and then moved over to PS4, back to Xbox One, then back to PS4, and then yeah, here I'm at now. And so for me, when I wanted to play games, when I was transferring over from the 360 to the One, it was really hard to enjoy kind of the older games because you didn't get an opportunity to really enjoy that. And it's very nostalgic, right? When you're going back to games that you grew up loving, but not being able to play them, it's kind of frustrating because you had to buy another $60 game or go back to the older console when you didn't have the abilities that you had on a newer console. But to me, yeah, that's huge. I think it's going to promote a lot of older players because it's going to give them that chance to play older games that they enjoyed.
Oh, definitely. Those are so big reasons for me as well. Usually I'm just on the PC, but being able to enjoy the games that you really enjoyed in the past. For example, with the Master Chief Collection, I was such a big fan of all those games, and now having that Master Chief Collection available, both on the Xbox and the computer, I just love hopping into a firefight match every once in a while with my friends and blasting some aliens and all that. That's really big as well. So that's awesome that they're providing that features. Faisal, do you have anything that you absolutely love about these consoles coming up?
I think the numbers on paper, they look pretty decent. They're probably going to be very up close to the mid-range PCs of that time when it comes out. And since all the games are optimized in those consoles, it'll be amazing to see what they come up with. And I'm excited for them to kind of have a fight, because the more they fight, the better it is for the gamers. Then you get a better product because they're competing against each other. I personally game on PS4 online, but I also have an Xbox One X, which I use to play single-player games because they had better graphics. But it looks like the Series X and the PS5 are very similar in terms of what the graphics will look like. Uh, I don't know. I'm kind of excited at the same time, skeptical. So I probably won't buy it on day one for myself. I'll wait, see the reviews, and it's also about the community as well, like where your friends are playing and which console or if they're on PC. So you kind of gauge that as well from your perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, going back to how close these two consoles are, you compare the specs to each other, and it feels like the Xbox has a bit of an edge here in the console war, if you want to put it that way. But both of them are really close, actually. And so it could really make a big difference depending on what the games are going to be available on each of those consoles. The PS5 or the PlayStation in general, I think, is known for really having good exclusives, so that could be a really good reason to buy it.
Yeah.
Then again, if you don't necessarily like any of those games and you really like the good old Nintendo games, you can always go back to the Switch.
Yeah.
And that's why I say that the console specs doesn't always make the console, because Nintendo has always put out consoles that aren't matching the top of the line quality, but they always have top of the line games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking at the PS5, they actually made some big differences there with the controllers. It kind of almost looks like a spaceship to me.
I've seen some funny memes out there. They showed a PS4 controller and a white Xbox controller merging together and became that, which was an interesting concept. It's pretty funny. I think it looks great, but then it comes down to how it feels when you actually grab hold of it. Because for me, the PS3 controller, when it first came out, it didn't change anything from the PS2, and that was kind of a deal breaker for me at that time. So it just depends on how it feels when you feel it when it's in your hands, and that's when you can decide whether you want it or not.
Yeah, definitely. I'm never going to get rid of my gamepad I have for my computer. It's a USB Xbox 360 controller.
Oh, those are the best.
Yeah, definitely. Nothing's going to beat that feel in the hand. But there are really cool new features that are coming out with these controllers. For example, there's going to be built-in microphones in the PS5 controller. That's going to be pretty big, because I know for a while I had to deal with really crappy, flimsy Xbox 360 headsets with my friends that always broke. Had to buy another, what was it, like a $30, $40 pair.
Yeah.
But it's really nice to, I mean, it's probably not going to be the highest quality, but just being able to chat with your friends through the controller, not having to buy a headset, is big.
I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, for me, I think that's huge for me, because I'm the type of person that wants to go eat mid-game. So if I'm bringing my controller with the big headset and I drop the controller, the aux cord falls out, can't hear them for 15 minutes, and you're baking a sandwich or making a sandwich. So for me, yeah, it's huge. I think being able to talk and be like, "I'll be right back, guys." I don't have to do that anymore. I could just bring my controller with me and chat with them while I'm eating ramen noodles or something.
That's
So
true.
that's huge. I love it. I love it.
I hope they also have not only the microphone, but speakers as well, so you can chat to. Do they have the speakers in the controllers?
Not for this one.
Oh.
Depending on the game, there is audio that comes out through the controller itself. So games like GTA 5 will have that, especially if you're engaged in game chat or audio chat. So then you can kind of hear things through the microphone. So an example would be if you're driving in a car, you'll hear the engine through the controller, which is pretty cool. So it kind of gives you an in-game feel. So I would be extremely curious to see how the PS5 controller will do with that, kind of how it engages with new games, audio and graphics and that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Cool.
that could definitely lead to a lot of really cool situations. Going back to your example of your friends hearing you making ramen, it sounds like you can give them all the sounds of the ramen, and they can't talk back.
Yeah, they'll be hungry, so we'll all be in the kitchen partying instead of on the game. But yeah.
Oh, 100%. I have a couple friends on Discord that I can identify based on the amount of background noise that are coming from their microphones. There's the one person that always join the Discord channel, and then they put on their headset. There's this plastic scraping sound that you always hear. Or another guy who's constantly, I don't know, it sounds like he has gardeners in his house or something. It's just an assortment of noise coming from his place for some reason. I mean, looking at the Xbox, it's also a little bit of a departure. It's got that really blocky design almost in their
Yeah.
new console.
I think it reminds me of I forget the name of the PC. Corsair came up with a PC that kind of looks very similar. It's very boxy and small. Everything's kind of knit really close to each other, so that kind of doesn't seem like a great way to conduct heat. But I don't know what it's going to look like inside, so I can't comment on that yet. But it's a little scary, but I'm sure they've done their research and they have great engineers at Microsoft, and I'm sure they'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm sure
Not
they
be a
don't want
360.
another. Yeah, 360. They don't want another Red Ring scenario.
I've bought probably 7 Xbox 360s in my lifetime because my game library was so huge. I couldn't just switch to PS3 just because they started failing so much. It sucked, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We move on.
Yeah, so these are both dropping in holiday this year in 2020. So those will likely, whatever specs we don't know about, will likely come out as soon enough here. And it looks like, doing some research, I think it's speculation at this point, but they're going to be around $500, I think, at the start to buy these. I feel it's a little bit more expensive than previous generations, or maybe I'm just not. Maybe I'm a little out of touch. I play a lot of PC these days. I think the only console I have right now is a Switch.
The good thing with consoles, I think, is you're investing for like the whole life cycle of the console. Unless it fails, of course, then you're kind of stuck in the mud. But for the most part, they don't fail as often, and they're optimized for X number of years. So you're pretty much set for like 10 years if you get a good console.
Yeah, and I think I think $500 is a fair enough price. I know, especially with consoles. When I bought my PS4, I bought it later on, so it was around $350. But definitely like $500, like Faisal was saying, it is an investment, right? It's going to last you more than a few years. It's not something that you're going to immediately change. But a tip for everyone though: always buy insurance on it, because my best friend, he bought his Xbox One when we first started playing, and it broke on the day that he started, and he was lucky enough to have insurance on it.
Wow.
And so yeah, you never know. Obviously, when people are trying to sell your consoles, they're trying to give you a good product, but you never know if it's faulty. So definitely be on the lookout there for anyone listening to the podcast.
Yeah, you never know if a console's going to come out with any mistakes. Even the Switch, which is pretty well regarded at this point, had that left Joy-Con issue when it first came out. And then the PS, I mean, and like before, we talked about the Xbox 360 that had some issues. I don't think the PS4 or 5 or any of those PlayStation consoles have really had a problem.
PS3 had some issues, but PS4, I haven't heard anything major in its entire product lifecycle through all the generations that they've brought out, like the big one, the Slims, the Pros. I don't think they've had any technical or hardware issues, because those are just killer for consumers, because the hardware fails, like you can't really troubleshoot that, like it's just broken. Just have to send it back unless you have the parts to fix it.
Yeah, and then for me, when I was transitioning over from Xbox to PlayStation, another big factor that made me switch over was because of the power brick. I think that and the fan as well. Like, you could hear your fan going on, and there were, people would say like use the air blow thing, and it would help you fix it, but you'd still hear the fan going on for months, and you wouldn't know if it's an issue. You would bring it in to fix it, and it would still be the same. They would replace like the fan board, and that was about it. But even with the power brick, like if that went out, you were screwed, and you'd have to replace it, and it would just smell burnt all the time.
Yeah,
and that's just not a good feeling. That's why I like the PS4 and the PS3 as well, is that because it was just direct plug-in, and PS4 has a good built-in fan system that works well.
A fun story with the 360, because I used to travel, and then I bought my 360 in the States, so it was 110 volts. So I brought it to Bangladesh, and boom, somebody blast. I went to buy a converter, but the person didn't understand what I was saying at the time, or he was rushed by himself. He plugged it directly into the outlet. That's 240, so it just popped it, and it was really hard to find a original Microsoft power brick at that time, because it just came out, and the compensation wouldn't even do anything, because I'm there for the rest of my trip, and then I'm stuck with an Xbox that doesn't work.
Oh no.
Yeah, I actually, speaking of that, I actually had a similar experience too with my Xbox. I used to live in Egypt when I was younger, and I remember I went back there for a 3-month vacation, and I brought my Xbox back, and the same thing happened. Like they have converters, and they're aware of the changes. But like I said, with that battery and that power brick, sometimes it's not going to adapt well to the to the change in the voltage, and yeah, mine blew twice. So yeah, it was a great trip. It wasn't. It wasn't fine. It was not fine. And so, yeah, I remember when I brought it back to the States again. You had to buy a new brick, and that also impacts the Xbox too and its durability, right? It's not just a one way to the power brick, but yeah, it impacts. Like I said, that horrendous smell.
Yeah, I hope they don't have power bricks.
Yeah, hopefully. I haven't done that side of the research with with that information, but hopefully they just have a cord that goes in straight to avoid that.
Something like that you have on your laptops, like 110 to 240, and that's how it should be. Because at this point, like we're far enough in our timelines that we should have something that's up to date.
Yeah, definitely. I think the funniest thing to me in that story is that you blew it twice, so you're able to repair it, and then it blew again at a later date.
Yeah, so
So what happened? Did you not learn your lesson, or is it some other mistake?
well, when you haven't gamed for a month, you kind of just get bored. So you gotta try again. And definitely was not a fun experience. I just remember all the power going out in our apartment.
Oh,
And
no.
my mom was like, "Is everything okay?" I was like, "No, no, it's not. We gotta go to the store." And yeah, not an experience I recommend to anyone.
Oh, for sure. I think one really cool thing that I heard from both these consoles is that they're actually going to support 4K and 20 hertz refresh, actually, which is huge, considering I believe the previous generations promised 60, but sometimes some of the games didn't even get up. They could only get up to like 30 at points.
Yeah.
So 120, that's really nice. That could be really good for some competitive games and shooters out there. I know Call of Duty players would probably love to run on a 144 monitor, for example.
Yeah.
And then even rumored going up to 8K support up points. I'm not sure when that happens, but if it does go there and it does some cool things at 8K, that's awesome. Otherwise, I believe that's going to wrap up our section on the PS5 and the Series X. I'm really looking forward to these. I think they're going to be some cool consoles, and hopefully we get some more cool stories that aren't of the burning the power brick variety.
No more fires.
Yeah, otherwise, a little announcement for this podcast is that we have our first one that's up on YouTube, and we're currently working on getting that up onto Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher if you're a fan of those platforms. So look forward to that. Hopefully by the next time we record a podcast, it'll be on those different platforms for you to listen on. Otherwise, where can I find more stuff about you, Youfasa, if I want to find you online?
Yeah, you can look me up on Twitter. I think that's the easiest way. I mean, I use Facebook for personal reasons, obviously, but yeah, if you want to reach out to me, you can always find it through the Black Ice Twitter or even my own Twitter, which is twitter.com/Youfasa98. Yeah, I post updates to my FIFA and my raging. And my enjoyment as well, so you can see the best of both worlds, I guess there. But yeah, the best way to probably reach me is through the Black Ice Twitter page.
Perfect. And Faisal, where can we find you?
I would say the same. Not Youfasa, but for the Black Ice Twitter page, Instagram, Facebook. I'm usually running the pages with Carlos. Give him a shout out for doing all the great work. Yeah, you can message me there, and also I have my own Twitter at FOSUMIA7. That's also my gamer tag on PSN. If people want to game or challenge me, I'm up for it.
Perfect. Yeah, you can find Black Ice Esports on Facebook under the name Black Ice Esports. YouTube as well is under Black Ice Esports. Instagram is blackice.esports. You can find us on Twitch at Black Ice Club, twitch.tv/Black Ice Club. We also have our own website as well, blackice.gg. I'm sure we'll get to that more here in the future. Otherwise, everybody, I hope you stay safe during this time with Corona, and hopefully it dies down shortly so we can get more of these tournaments happening.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. I appreciate it. Have a good day.